She brought coffee daily to an abandoned elderly man, until 4 lawyers showed up at her door. Maya Brooks felt her heart race when she saw the 4 men in suits standing in front of her small apartment in downtown New York City. They didn't look like debt collectors nor salesmen. There was something different in their posture, a seriousness that made her hesitate before opening the door. "Miss Maya Brooks?" asked the tallest one, a middle-aged man with a leather briefcase in his hands. "We need to speak with you about Arthur Harrison." Maya leaned against the doorframe. Arthur, the old man on the corner of her building, the one who for 3 months had been receiving a hot coffee from her every morning before she went out to look for a job. "What's wrong with Mr. Arthur?" she asked, her voice coming out weaker than she would have liked. "I can explain better if you allow us to come in," said another lawyer, showing a credential. "We represent the Harrison family." Maya opened the door slowly. Her mind raced trying to understand the situation. Arthur was just an abandoned old man who slept on the sidewalk, covered in worn-out clothes and a torn blanket she herself had given him. How could he have a family with lawyers? The 4 men settled into the small living room of her 2-room apartment. Maya offered water, more out of politeness than a desire to be hospitable. She was scared. "Miss Brooks," began the tallest lawyer, Mr. Sterling, according to the card he handed her, "the gentleman you know as Arthur is actually Arthur Harrison III, owner of one of the largest construction companies in the country." Maya laughed in disbelief. "Are you talking about the same old man who sleeps on the corner of my building, who can barely speak properly?" "Exactly him," confirmed Mr. Sterling. "He disappeared 5 years ago, after an accident that severely affected his memory. The family has been looking for him ever since." Mr. Vance, a younger man, leaned forward. "Miss Maya, we represent Mr. Arthur's eldest daughter, Dr. Victoria Harrison. She has lived in Switzerland for 10 years, but is very concerned about her father's health. She needs him to be admitted immediately to a specialized clinic." A third lawyer, Mr. Ashford, shook his head. "With all due respect to my colleagues, I represent Nathan Harrison, Mr. Arthur's youngest son. He believes his father needs to return home to a family environment, not an institution." Maya looked from one to the other, confused. "Wait a minute. You're from the same family but represent different people?" "The family is divided on the best care for Mr. Arthur," explained Mr. Sterling. "That's why we're here. You are the only person who has had regular contact with him in recent months. Your opinion could be decisive for the judge." The fourth lawyer, Mr. Blackwell, who had remained silent until then, finally spoke. "Miss Maya, there are complex legal issues involving the family's inheritance and businesses. Mr. Arthur has assets valued at over $10 million. Maya felt the floor disappear from under her feet. 10 million. The old man she fed fresh rolls and coffee to had 10 million. "This can't be true," she murmured. Mr. Vance opened his briefcase and took out several old photographs. Maya immediately recognized Arthur's younger face. He wore expensive suits, was in luxurious offices, next to important people. "These were taken before the accident," explained Mr. Vance. "He was a completely different person." Maya picked up one of the photos. Arthur was hugging an elegant woman in front of an imposing mansion. They were smiling. They looked happy. "Who is this woman?" The 4 lawyers exchanged glances. "She was his wife," said Mr. Sterling hesitantly. "Unfortunately, she is no longer with us." Maya felt her chest tighten. Arthur had lost his wife and then his memory. He must have suffered so much. "Look, gentlemen," she said, returning the photos, "I only bring coffee for Mr. Arthur because he reminds me of my grandfather. I know nothing about inheritance or family. I only know he is a lonely old man who needs care." Mr. Ashford leaned forward. "That is precisely why we are here, Miss Maya. You have shown more care for him in the last few months than any family member has in the last 5 years. How so?" "Nathan Harrison is willing to generously compensate you for the care you have given his father," explained Mr. Ashford. $5,000 a month just to continue doing what you already do." Mr. Vance reacted immediately. "Dr. Victoria Harrison offers $10,000 monthly, but on the condition that Mr. Arthur be admitted to the clinic she has chosen." Maya shook her head. "Are you trying to buy me?" "That is not how we see the situation," said Mr. Sterling. "You have already demonstrated genuine dedication. We are merely offering a way to formalize that care. And what happens to him in all of this? Mr. Arthur will receive the best possible care, assured Mr. Vance. Dr. Victoria has hired the best specialists in the country. Specialists he will never see because you can't even find him, Maya countered. Meanwhile, I am the only one who worries if he has eaten today or if he is cold. Mr. Blackwell, who had remained quiet, finally spoke up. Miss Maya, there are legal aspects you need to understand. Mr. Arthur has been declared missing but not incapacitated. Technically, he still has rights to his estate. What does that mean? It means any decision about his future must have his approval, even considering his current mental condition. Maya took a deep breath. The situation was far more complicated than she had imagined. I need to think about all of this. It's a lot of information at once. Mr. Sterling stood up. We understand perfectly, but we ask that you do not mention our conversation to Mr. Arthur for now. Sudden changes could negatively affect his condition. The four attorneys left their cards and withdrew. Maya was left alone, looking at the photographs Mr. Vance had forgotten on the table. That afternoon, when she went down to bring Arthur his afternoon coffee, Maya watched him with different eyes. She tried to see in him the man from the photographs, but could only see the fragile old man she knew. Mr. Arthur, she said, sitting on the floor beside him, did you ever live somewhere beautiful? Arthur looked at her with those tired eyes she knew so well. For a moment it seemed he was going to answer something, but he only murmured incomprehensible words. Maya noticed he was holding something in his hand. It was a crumpled piece of paper. She could see part of a phone number. May I see that, Mr. Arthur? He opened his hand, revealing a piece of a very old utility bill. The address was smudged, but Maya could read Park Avenue and part of the number. Her curiosity was piqued. The next day, after bringing Arthur his morning coffee, Maya decided to look for the street. It wasn't hard to find. It was a prestigious street in the Upper East Side. The number on the bill corresponded to an imposing mansion, but one that had clearly been abandoned for years. The garden was overgrown with weeds, the gates rusty, windows broken. Maya rang the bell without expecting an answer. To her surprise, she heard footsteps. An elderly lady opened the gate. Yes? Hi, sorry to bother you. My name is Maya. I am caring for a gentleman who I think may have lived here before. The woman studied her carefully. Caring for him how? Maya explained about Arthur, about the daily coffees, about his condition on the street. The woman listened to everything in silence. Please come in, she finally said. My name is Mrs. Dorothy. I was the housekeeper for the Harrison family for over 20 years. The inside of the house was even more rundown, furniture covered in sheets, dusty portraits on the walls. He really did live here, Maya murmured, recognizing some of the settings from the photographs the lawyers had shown. Mrs. Dorothy sighed. Mr. Arthur was a very good man, truly very good, and he suffered so much when Mrs. Eleanor got sick. Eleanor was his wife. Yes, a saint of a woman. They loved each other like two teenagers, even after so many years of marriage. Maya felt a tightness in her chest. The lawyer said she died. Mrs. Dorothy stopped walking. Died? Who said that? The family lawyers. The older woman paled. My dear, I left this house just 2 years ago. When I left, Mrs. Eleanor was in a private clinic, but alive. Maya felt the world spin. The lawyers had lied to her. Are you sure? Absolutely. Mrs. Eleanor has a type of dementia, but she was well cared for. I visited her myself from time to time. Then why did the lawyers say she died? Mrs. Dorothy shook her head sadly. Those children were never any good, since they were little. They only cared about their father's money. When Mrs. Eleanor got sick and Mr. Arthur had the accident, they must have seen the opportunity they wanted. What kind of accident was it? Mr. Arthur fell down the stairs here at home, hit his head very hard. When he woke up in the hospital, he couldn't remember anything from the last 10 years. Not his wife's illness, not the problems with the children. Nothing. Maya sat down in a nearby chair. The story was getting sadder and sadder. And what happened after? The children said they would take care of everything. that they would hire nurses, that they would visit often. But after a few weeks, Mr. Arthur simply disappeared. They said he had run away, that he didn't want to accept help. But that doesn't make sense. How would someone with amnesia run off alone? It doesn't, my dear. I always suspected they did something to him. Maybe they abandoned him somewhere far away, thinking he wouldn't be able to get back. Maya stood up, outraged. That's inhuman. It is. And mind you, I'm not even telling half of the whole story. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, take a moment to leave a like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now continuing. Maya leaned forward, eager to hear more. What else happened, Mrs. Dorothy? The elderly woman looked around, as if checking no one was listening. My dear, what I'm about to tell you cannot leave this room. At least not until I know if I can trust you completely. I swear on my mother's soul I won't tell anyone. Mrs. Dorothy took a deep breath. 1 week before Mr. Arthur's accident, I heard a terrible argument between him and the youngest son, Nathan. Mr. Arthur had discovered that Nathan was embezzling money from the construction company. A lot of money. Maya felt a chill down her spine. Go on. Mr. Arthur said he was going to disinherit him, that he was going to cut him out of all the businesses. Nathan lost his mind, screaming that it was his sick mother's fault, that she was costing a fortune with her treatments. My God. That's when Mr. Arthur said he'd rather spend every last cent on his wife than leave a single dollar for a heartless son. Nathan screamed that his father would regret it, that he wouldn't let that happen. And was it after that argument that the accident happened? 2 days later. And what a coincidence. Nathan was here in the house at the moment of the fall. Maya rose from the chair, shocked. Are you suggesting that... I'm not suggesting anything, my dear. I'm just telling you what I saw and heard. You draw your own conclusions. Maya began pacing back and forth. Mrs. Dorothy, where is this clinic where Mrs. Eleanor was staying? It's in Greenwich Village. It's called St. Jude's Care Home, but I don't know if she's still there after all this time. Maya wrote down the address. I need to go there. Be careful, dear. If what I suspect is true, you could be getting yourself into a very dangerous situation. Mrs. Dorothy, that old man there on the corner of my building has no one else in the world but me. If he has a living wife and his own children lied about it, I need to do something. The elderly woman held Maya's hand. You have a good heart, my child. Mr. Arthur and Mrs. Eleanor were always very special people to me. If you can bring them together again. Maya felt tears in her eyes. I will try, even if it's the last thing I do in my life. On the way back home, Maya passed the corner where Arthur usually stayed. He was there, as always, watching the movement of people without really seeing anything. Mr. Arthur, she said, sitting down beside him, would you like to take a little walk with me tomorrow? Arthur looked at her with that vague expression she knew well. Eleanor, he murmured suddenly. Maya felt her heart race. It was the first time she had heard him speak a name clearly. Eleanor? Who is Eleanor, Mr. Arthur? But he fell back into silence, as if the word had escaped without him noticing. That night, Maya could barely sleep. Her head was buzzing with everything she had discovered. If Mrs. Dorothy was right, Arthur had been abandoned by his own children, who had even lied about his wife being dead. The next day, she woke with a determination she hadn't felt in a long time. First, she took the morning coffee to Arthur. Then she took 2 buses to Greenwich Village. St. Jude's Care Home was a discreet building on a tree-lined street. Maya took a deep breath before entering. Good morning, she said to the receptionist. I'd like to know if Mrs. Eleanor Harrison is still a patient here. The receptionist checked the computer. We do have an Eleanor Harrison, yes, but she only receives visits from authorized family members, Maya thought quickly. I'm her granddaughter, Maya Harrison Brooks. The receptionist frowned. We don't have any Maya on the authorized visitor list. It's just that I live far away. I only just managed to come visit her. Can I at least see how she is? I'm sorry, but without family authorization. Maya was about to give up when she heard a voice behind her. Maya? She turned and saw a young nurse, not much older than herself. Yes? I heard you talking about Mrs. Eleanor. Are you really a relative? Maya hesitated, but something in the nurse's eyes made her trust. Actually, no. I'm taking care of her husband, who has amnesia and is living on the street. I only found out today that she is alive. The nurse looked around and whispered, "Meet me at the corner cafe in 5 minutes." Maya left the clinic intrigued. A few minutes later, the nurse appeared. "My name is Sarah," she introduced herself. "I've been taking care of Mrs. Eleanor for 2 years. That poor lady has never received a single visit from her family." "Never?" "Never. And get this, she always asks about her husband. Always. Even with dementia, she remembers him clearly." Maya felt her eyes well up. "How is she?" "Physically well. Mentally, she has better days and worse days. But on the good days, she talks about Arthur as if she saw him yesterday." "Sarah, I know it's a big ask, but is there any way I could see her? Even if it's from a distance?" Sarah thought for a moment. "This afternoon she usually sits in the garden. If you walk by the sidewalk at 3 o'clock, you'll be able to see her through the fence." At 3 o'clock sharp, Maya was on the sidewalk in front of the clinic. She soon spotted an elderly lady sitting in a wheelchair in the garden. Even from a distance, Maya recognized the face from the photographs. Eleanor was thinner, more fragile, but still maintained a natural elegance. She wore a light blue dress, and her hair was tied back with a ribbon. Suddenly, Eleanor looked toward the fence. For a moment, their eyes met. The elderly lady smiled and waved, as if greeting a friend. Maya waved back, feeling her chest tighten with emotion. At that moment, Sarah approached Eleanor's wheelchair and said something in her ear. Eleanor looked at Maya again, and her lips formed the word Arthur. Maya nodded her head, confirming. Eleanor brought her hands to her chest, moved. Sarah approached the fence. "She wants to know if Arthur is well." "He is alive," replied Maya, "but he doesn't remember her. She says it doesn't matter, that her love is strong enough for both of them." Maya had to lean on the fence to keep from falling. How could someone love so much? "Sarah, do you think it would be possible to arrange a meeting between them?" "It would be dangerous. If the administration finds out, I'll pay whatever is necessary." Sarah shook her head. "It's not a question of money. It's that if the family finds out, they could move Mrs. Eleanor to another clinic. And wherever she went, it would be much worse than here." Maya understood. She was in a delicate situation. "Then what can I do?" "Let me think. Maybe on Sunday, when it's less busy." They agreed to speak by phone. Maya returned home with a heavy heart. Seeing Eleanor had been both hopeful and painful. When she reached the corner of her building, she got a fright. Arthur was not in his usual spot. She searched the surroundings, growing more and more worried. That's when she saw Mr. Vance getting out of a black car. "Miss Maya, good to see you." "Where is Mr. Arthur?" Calm down. He is being well cared for." "Doctor." Victoria decided to move up the admission. Maya felt her blood boil. "You had no right to do that without telling me." "Actually, we did. Dr. Victoria obtained a temporary court order. Since Mr. Arthur is not in a condition to decide for himself." "Where is he?" Mr. Vance hesitated. "In a private clinic, receiving the best care. I want to see him." "That won't be possible for the next few days. He needs to adjust to the new environment." Maya stepped closer to the lawyer. "Mr. Vance, I'm going to ask a question, and I want an honest answer. Do you gentlemen know that his wife is alive?" The lawyer looked visibly uncomfortable. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Yes, you do. And you also know that she's been in a clinic for 5 years alone, without a single visit from the family." Mr. Vance opened the car door. "Miss Maya, you are getting involved in matters you don't understand. My advice is to forget this whole story and get on with your life. And if I don't want to forget," Mr. Vance looked at her coldly, "then you can prepare for the consequences." The car sped off, leaving Maya alone on the sidewalk. That night, she couldn't eat or sleep. She kept imagining Arthur alone in a clinic, not understanding where he was or why he was there, and Eleanor in the other clinic, not knowing that her husband had finally been found. The next day, Maya made a decision. She called all the contacts the 4 lawyers had left and scheduled a meeting. I want to speak with all of you, together, this afternoon. She managed to convince them to meet in a neutral office. When she arrived, the four of them were waiting with serious expressions. "Miss Maya," said Mr. Sterling, "we hope you have reconsidered your position." "I have reconsidered," she replied, "and I've come here to propose an agreement." The lawyers exchanged glances. "What kind of agreement?" asked Mr. Ashford. "I know that his wife is alive. I know she's been in a clinic for 5 years without receiving visits, and I know you lied about it." Mr. Vance shifted uncomfortably in his chair. "I don't know where you got this information." "It doesn't matter where I got it. What matters is that it's true." Mr. Blackwell, who had remained silent, finally spoke. "What is it you want, miss?" "I want Arthur and Eleanor to see each other, just once. After that you can do whatever you want with the inheritance. The business is everything." "That's impossible," said Mr. Sterling. "The mental state of both doesn't allow—" "Yes, it does," interrupted Maya. "Eleanor is lucid most of the time, and even if Arthur doesn't consciously remember her, I saw his reaction when I mentioned the name Eleanor." The lawyers conversed among themselves in low voices. "And if we say no?" asked Mr. Vance. Maya took a deep breath. This was her final move. "Then I'll go to the press. I'll tell the whole story. The abandonment, the lies, the separation of an elderly couple because of their children's greed." The silence in the office was tense. "You have no proof, miss," said Mr. Ashford. "I have Mrs. Dorothy, who worked in the house for 20 years. I have the nurse who cares for Eleanor. I have clinic records showing she never received visits, and I have 3 months of daily interaction with Arthur to testify about his real condition." Mr. Blackwell stood up. "We will speak with our clients and give you an answer by tomorrow." Maya left the office with trembling legs. She had played a hard hand, but saw no other alternative. That night, Sarah called her. "Maya, I managed to arrange everything for Sunday. We can try the meeting." "It won't work, Sarah. The lawyers had Arthur admitted to a clinic and won't let me see him." "What do you mean?" Maya told her the whole situation. Sarah was outraged. "That's inhumane. How can they separate a couple like that?" "I don't know, Sarah. But I made them a proposal today. I hope they accept. And if they don't," Maya looked out the window of her small apartment, "then I'll fight in a way they can't imagine." The next day Mr. Sterling called early. "Miss Maya, our clients have accepted your proposal, with some conditions." "What conditions?" "The meeting will be supervised by doctors. It will last a maximum of 30 minutes. And after that, you agree not to involve yourself further in the Harrison family affairs." Maya closed her eyes. 30 minutes. It was little, but perhaps it would be enough. "I accept." "The meeting will be Sunday morning at a neutral clinic. We will send a car to pick you up at 9 o'clock. When she hung up the phone, Maya collapsed on the sofa, exhausted. She had done it. Arthur and Eleanor were going to see each other after 5 years apart. She spent the rest of the week in terrible anxiety. What if the meeting traumatized Arthur? What if Eleanor didn't recognize him? What if she was doing everything wrong? Sarah called on Friday. "Maya, Mrs. Eleanor is very agitated. It's as if she feels something important is going to happen." "What do you mean?" "She woke up today saying the name Arthur non-stop, and she asked to have her hair done, to put on a nice dress. She never cared about that before." Maya felt a shiver. "Do you think she knows?" "I think her heart knows." On Saturday night, Maya barely slept. She kept imagining how the meeting would be if the right words would come, if she could give them what they deserved in those precious 30 minutes. On Sunday morning at 9 sharp, a black car stopped in front of her building. Maya went down with trembling hands. Mr. Vance was in the front seat. "Miss Maya, ready?" "Ready." During the ride, the lawyer explained the rules. Doctors will be present the entire time. If either patient shows signs of stress or confusion, the meeting will be interrupted immediately. Maya just nodded. She was too nervous to argue. The clinic was located in an upscale area of the city. It was a modern building with well-kept gardens. When they entered, Maya saw Eleanor sitting in a reception area armchair, accompanied by Sarah. She wore an elegant navy blue dress and had done her hair. She looked beautiful. Across the room, Arthur was in a wheelchair with a nurse beside him. He looked confused, gazing around without focusing on anything specific. Maya felt her heart race. For the first time in 5 years, they were in the same room. "Dr. Miller, geriatrician," introduced a man in a white coat. "I will supervise the meeting. Any sign of agitation, we interrupt everything." Maya nodded. "You may begin." The nurse wheeled Arthur's chair closer to Eleanor's armchair. They were about 2 meters apart. At first, neither seemed to notice the other. Eleanor looked at her hands, Arthur at an undefined point on the floor. It was then that Sarah said softly, "Mrs. Eleanor, there is someone here you might like to see." Eleanor lifted her face. Her eyes scanned the room until they landed on Arthur. What happened next Maya would never forget for the rest of her life. Eleanor's face transformed completely. Her eyes filled with tears. Her mouth opened in a radiant smile. "Arthur," she murmured. And as if her voice were a magical command, Arthur raised his head and looked directly at her. For a moment, time stood still. They stared at each other in silence as tears streamed down both their faces. "Eleanor," Arthur said, and his voice was no longer the confused voice Maya knew. It was firm, full of recognition. Eleanor reached out her hand. Arthur, with trembling movements, did the same. When their hands touched, Maya had to lean against the wall to keep from fainting from emotion. "My love," Eleanor said, "where were you?" I don't remember," Arthur replied. "But I knew you were somewhere. I could feel it." Dr. Miller approached, concerned about their emotional state. But Maya gestured for him to wait. Arthur managed to rise from the wheelchair with effort. He took the 2 steps that separated him from Eleanor and knelt beside her armchair. "Eleanor, my Eleanor," he repeated, holding her face in his hands. "I waited for you, my love. Every day I waited for you." Maya cried without shame. Beside her, Sarah was also moved. Even the lawyers, who had arrived seemingly indifferent, seemed touched by the scene. "Arthur," Eleanor said, "do you remember our house? Our garden?" Arthur closed his eyes, concentrating. I remember the roses. You planted red roses in front of the house." "That's right, my love, and you said they matched my wedding dress." "Your dress was red," Arthur said, surprised at himself for remembering. "No, my love, it was white. But on the day of our 20th wedding anniversary, I wore a red dress the color of the roses." Arthur smiled, a smile Maya had never seen before. "20th anniversary. We danced in the backyard." "We did. In the rain, because you said you didn't want to wait for it to stop." Dr. Miller whispered to Maya, "It's extraordinary. His emotional memory is being activated by her presence." Maya just watched, fascinated. "Eleanor," Arthur said, "I was lost. So lost." "I know, my love. But now you've found me. I don't want to be lost again." Eleanor held his hands tightly. "You won't be. I promise." Mr. Vance approached. "Miss Maya, 25 minutes have passed." Maya looked at him angrily. "Just 5 more minutes, please. The agreement was for 30 minutes total." Maya turned to Eleanor and Arthur. "Mr. Arthur, Mrs. Eleanor, I'm sorry, but—" Eleanor interrupted her. "My dear, come here." Maya approached. "Thank you," Eleanor said. "Thank you for taking care of my husband when I couldn't." "Thank you," Arthur repeated. "Maya, isn't it? You used to bring me coffee." "I did, Mr. Arthur. Every day. The coffee was always nice and hot," he smiled, "like the coffee Eleanor used to make for me." Maya knelt beside the 2 of them. "I wish you could be together forever." "We will be," Eleanor said with determination. "One way or another, we will be together." Mr. Vance cleared his throat. "It's time to wrap this up." Maya stood up, but Arthur held her hand. "Maya, will you keep visiting us?" She looked at the lawyers, who shook their heads, no. "I'll try, Mr. Arthur." The nurse approached to take Arthur back to the wheelchair, but he resisted. "I don't want to leave without Eleanor." "My love," Eleanor said, "we'll see each other soon. I promise." "How do you know?" Eleanor smiled through her tears. Because after 50 years of marriage, I've learned that true love always finds a way. Arthur kissed Eleanor's forehead. I love you, Eleanor. Even when I don't remember, I love you. I love you too, Arthur. More than anything in this world. The nurse managed to convince Arthur to return to the wheelchair. Sarah helped Eleanor to her feet. As they were being led in opposite directions, Eleanor shouted, Arthur, remember the song we danced to at our wedding? Arthur stopped and turned. Unchained Melody, he replied, surprising everyone with the clarity of his memory. That's right, my love. Every night I sing that song thinking of you. And then they were gone, each taken to a different exit of the institute. Maya stood frozen in the middle of the reception area, devastated. Mr. Vance approached her. Miss Maya, thank you for facilitating this meeting. Now, as agreed. I know, she interrupted him. I won't interfere in the family's affairs anymore. Excellent. The car will take you back home. During the ride, Maya cried silently. She had gotten what she wanted, to reunite Arthur and Eleanor, however briefly, but now she felt sadder than before. When she got home, she found a surprise. Mrs. Dorothy was sitting on the building's front steps. Mrs. Dorothy, how did you know where I live? I asked some neighbors in the area you told me you lived in. I need to talk to you urgently. They went up to Maya's apartment. Dear, you need to know something. After you left the house, I kept thinking about our conversation, and I remembered something very important. Maya made coffee for both of them. What is it? Mr. Arthur had a safe hidden in his bedroom. A small safe behind the wardrobe. I only knew because I once saw him opening it. And what about it? Dear, after Mr. Arthur disappeared, his children turned the whole house upside down, looking for documents, money, anything of value. But they never found that safe. Maya leaned forward, interested. You think it's still there? I'm sure of it. The house has been abandoned for years. Nobody has touched a thing. But wouldn't that be trespassing? Mrs. Dorothy smiled. Dear, I have the keys to the house. Mr. Arthur gave them to me many years ago, for emergencies. And if anyone asks, I was there cleaning. Maya hesitated. She had committed to not getting involved with the family's affairs anymore. Mrs. Dorothy, I promised the lawyers I wouldn't meddle in this story anymore. And you won't be meddling. You'll be helping an old employee clean her employer's house. Maya laughed for the first time in days. When do you want to go there? Now, before I lose my nerve. They took 2 buses to the Upper East Side. The mansion looked even gloomier in the late afternoon light. Mrs. Dorothy opened the door easily. Let's go straight to the master bedroom. The master bedroom was covered in dust, but preserved. The king-size bed, the heavy curtains, the fine wood furniture. Mrs. Dorothy went straight to the giant wardrobe. Help me pull this. With effort, they managed to move the piece away from the wall. Behind it was indeed a small safe built into the wall. How do we open it? Asked Maya. I saw Mr. Arthur open it once. The combination was their wedding date. What day was it? March 15th, 1973. Maya entered the numbers. 150373. Nothing. She tried other combinations. 150373, 031573. Nothing. Wait a minute, said Mrs. Dorothy. Let me think how he did it. She closed her eyes, concentrating. He turned it to the right, then left, then right again, but he counted in a special way. Mrs. Dorothy took command of the safe. 1, 5, 0, 3, 7, 3, she murmured, turning the dial slowly. Click. The safe opened. Inside were documents, some jewelry, and a sealed letter with the name Eleanor on the front. Maya pulled out the letter with trembling hands. I don't think we should read this. Dear, after everything we've discovered, I think we should. Maya opened the letter carefully. The handwriting was firm, clearly written before the accident. My dearest Eleanor, if you are reading this letter, it means something has happened to me and you needed to open our secret safe. First, I want you to know that you were the love of my life. Every day by your side was a blessing. I am writing this letter because I sense our children may create problems when I am no longer here to protect you. For this reason, I have left special documents in this safe. The first document transfers our house to your name, exclusively. The boys cannot take it from you. The second document is a life insurance policy they don't know about, worth $5 million. The beneficiary is you. The third document is a bank account in the United Kingdom, also exclusively yours. The number and password are in the blue letter. Eleanor, do not let our children convince you that you cannot take care of yourself. You are stronger than you think. If by chance I become ill and can no longer care for you as you deserve, use this money to get the best possible care, but never let them separate us. I love you today, I will love you tomorrow, I will love you forever. Your Arthur. Maya finished reading with tears in her eyes. Mrs. Dorothy, this changes everything. It does, dear. It changes everything completely. Maya took the documents. Everything was there, exactly as Arthur had written. Eleanor needs to know this. She has rights she can't even imagine. And now, dear, what are we going to do? Maya stood up, determined. We're going to make things right. Dear listener, if you are enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now continuing. The next day, Maya called Sarah. Sarah, I need to speak with Mrs. Eleanor urgently. It's about documents her husband left for her. Maya, after that meeting, Mrs. Eleanor is not well. She's very agitated, keeps calling for Arthur all the time. That's exactly why I need to speak with her. I have information that could change her situation completely. I'll try to arrange an informal visit, but you have to promise you won't tell anyone. I promise. Sarah managed to arrange for Maya to visit Eleanor in the afternoon, when there was less activity at the institute. When Maya entered the room, Eleanor was sitting on the bed, looking out the window. Mrs. Eleanor? The woman turned, her eyes lit up upon recognizing Maya. Maya, how good to see you, my dear. How are you feeling? I miss my Arthur. After seeing him yesterday, it's as if the pain has grown. Maya sat in the chair beside the bed. Mrs. Eleanor, I have something very important to show you. What is it? Maya took the documents from her bag. Your husband left a letter for you, and some very important documents. Eleanor took the letter with trembling hands. As she read, her face transformed. My God, she murmured. Arthur knew. He knew this could happen. Do you understand what this means? It means I have my own resources, that I don't need to depend on my children for anything. Maya nodded. Exactly. And there's one more important thing in these documents. What? A document that makes it clear you have the right to choose where you want to live and with whom you want to be. Your children cannot make decisions for you without your consent. Eleanor got up from the bed, more animated than Maya had ever seen her. Maya, do you know what this means? It means you can leave here if you want. Not just that, it means I can take my Arthur with me. Maya felt her heart race. How so? If I have my own resources, I can hire private caregivers for both of us. I can rent a house where we can live together, with all the medical assistance we need. The idea was brilliant, but Maya was worried. Mrs. Eleanor, your children won't let this happen without a fight. Then we'll have to be smarter than them. Eleanor moved closer to Maya. My dear, would you be willing to help me one more time? Maya didn't hesitate. Of course. First, I need you to take these documents to a lawyer who has nothing to do with my children. I need someone who represents only my interests. I know a lawyer. Mr. Henderson defended a friend of mine when she had work problems. He's a very honest person. Perfect. Second, I need you to find out exactly where my Arthur is hospitalized. How will I do that? Eleanor smiled in a way Maya had never seen before. My dear, you can't imagine what 50 years of marriage teaches a woman. I know my children better than they think. Explain better. Nathan has always been lazy. He'll choose the clinic closest to his house. Victoria is obsessive about control. She'll choose the most expensive clinic in the city. And how does that help us? Because yesterday, during the visit, I overheard Arthur's nurse talking on the phone. He said he needed to get back to Purdy's before 5 in the afternoon. Purdy's is near Nathan's house. Exactly, so my husband is in a clinic in Purdy's, probably the most expensive one in the area. Maya was impressed with Eleanor's shrewdness. And what's the plan? You will go to Mr. Henderson with the documents. He will file a motion to give me full autonomy over my life and my assets. At the same time, I will use my spousal rights to request custody of Arthur. And if the children contest it? They will contest it, but now I have the resources for a legal battle, and I have something they don't have. What? The truth on my side. Maya left the clinic with a feeling of hope she hadn't felt in a long time. For the first time since she had met Arthur, there was a real possibility of a happy ending. Mr. Henderson received Maya the next day. He was a man in his 60s, with a simple appearance, but an intelligent gaze. "Miss Maya, this story is one of the most touching I've ever heard," he said after reading all the documents, "and also one of the most outrageous. Do you think it has a chance of succeeding? With these documents? I'm sure. Mr. Arthur was very smart in preparing this documentation. He made everything very clear. How long could it take? If all goes well, we could get a preliminary injunction in 2 weeks, but I must warn you, it will be a heavy battle. The children will try everything to stop it. Mrs. Eleanor is prepared for that. And you, Miss Maya, are you ready? Because they will certainly try to intimidate you too." Maya thought of Arthur sleeping on the sidewalk, of Eleanor alone at the institute, of the way they looked at each other at the meeting. "I'm ready, Mr. Henderson. Then let's begin." While Mr. Henderson prepared the legal documents, Maya began her own investigation. She researched the private clinics in Greenwich Village and made a few phone calls pretending to be a relative. On the third try, she got lucky. "The Heights Medical Institute, good afternoon." "Good afternoon. I'd like to inquire about a patient admitted there, Arthur Harrison." "One moment, please. Yes, we have a patient by that name. Are you a relative?" "I'm his granddaughter. I'd like to visit him." "I need to check the list of authorized visitors. I'm sorry, we only have Dr. Nathan Harrison and Dr. Victoria Harrison authorized." "But I live far away. I came just to see him." "Unfortunately, I can't help without authorization from the family." Maya hung up, but she had gotten the information she wanted. Arthur was at the Heights Medical Institute. That afternoon she went there. It was a modern building on a busy street. Maya watched from a distance, trying to imagine how Arthur was feeling inside. That's when she saw a nurse coming out for a break. Maya approached her. "Excuse me, do you work here?" "I do. Why?" "It's just that my grandfather is a patient here, but the family won't let me visit him. I just wanted to know if he's okay." "What's his name?" "Arthur Harrison." The nurse, a middle-aged woman, sighed. "Ah, Mr. Arthur, poor thing." "What do you mean, poor thing?" "He won't stop calling for someone named Eleanor, day and night. The doctors have already increased his medication twice, but he doesn't calm down." Maya felt her chest tighten. "And how is he physically?" "Well, physically he's fine, but mentally, he seems to have gotten worse since he arrived here. He gets very confused, doesn't want to eat properly." "Do you think it would be possible for me to take a look at him, even if from far away?" The nurse looked around. "Look, normally I wouldn't do this, but I feel so sorry for Mr. Arthur. He's in room 305. At 4 in the afternoon he usually sits by the window. From the street you can see." Maya thanked her, and at 4 o'clock sharp she was on the sidewalk, looking up at the third-floor window. Soon she saw Arthur appear at the window. He looked thin, lost. When their eyes met, Arthur became agitated. He started banging on the window, as if trying to say something. Maya waved, trying to calm him, but that only made him more agitated. Within minutes, a nurse appeared and led him away from the window. That night, Maya called Sarah. "Sarah, how is Mrs. Eleanor today?" "Agitated. She can't sleep properly. Keeps asking if you found out where Arthur is." "I have. He's at a clinic in Greenwich Village, and from what I could gather, he's not well." "What are we going to do?" "Mr. Henderson is filing the papers tomorrow, but until the injunction is issued, it could take time." "Maya, I don't know if Mrs. Eleanor can take much more time apart from her husband. She'll manage, she has to." The next day, Mr. Henderson filed a legal petition asking that Eleanor be recognized as capable of making her own decisions and that she have the right to care for her husband. The Harrison family's reaction was immediate and furious. Mr. Vance appeared at Maya's house that same day. "Miss Maya, you broke our agreement." "I broke no agreement. I said I wouldn't interfere in family matters. And I'm not interfering. I'm defending the rights of a lady who was deceived by her own children." "You don't understand the legal complications." "I understand perfectly. Eleanor Harrison was abandoned by her children, who lied about her death to her husband and lied about his condition to her. That's a crime." Mr. Vance turned pale. "You can't prove that." "Yes, I can. I have witnesses, documents, medical records, and most importantly, I have the truth." "Miss Maya, once again I'll give you some advice. Don't start a war you can't win." "Mr. Vance, I'll give you some advice. Tell your clients the war has already begun, and whoever has the truth on their side has a great chance of winning." After the lawyer left, Maya felt shaky. She knew she had gotten herself into a dangerous situation, but she couldn't abandon Eleanor and Arthur now. Sarah called that afternoon, distressed. "Maya, you need to come here urgently. Mrs. Eleanor is very unwell." Maya rushed to the institute. She found Eleanor in bed, pale, with doctors around her. "What happened?" "She had a very severe anxiety attack," explained the doctor. "She's stabilized now but needs rest." Maya approached the bed. "Mrs. Eleanor, how are you feeling?" Eleanor opened her eyes slowly. "Maya, you came." "Of course I came. You scared me." "My dear, I had a terrible nightmare. I dreamed that Arthur was calling for me, but I couldn't reach him." Maya held Eleanor's hand. "Mrs. Eleanor, Mr. Henderson filed the papers yesterday. Soon you'll be free to decide your own life. And what if it's too late?" "It won't be too late. You're stronger than you think." Eleanor squeezed Maya's hand. "Maya, can I ask you something?" "Of course. If anything happens to me before I can be with Arthur again, do you promise you'll take care of him?" "Mrs. Eleanor, don't talk like that. Nothing will happen to you." "Do you promise?" Maya felt tears in her eyes. "I promise." In the following days, the situation intensified. Mr. Henderson obtained a partial injunction. Eleanor was recognized as capable of making her own medical decisions. But the issue of Arthur's guardianship was still under discussion. The first victory energized Eleanor, who left the institute that same day. "Maya," she said, "now I'm going to rent a big house, with space for caregivers. I want everything to be ready when the decision about Arthur comes through." Eleanor, with her intelligence and determination, seemed completely different from the fragile woman Maya had met at the institute. She rented a single-story house in a quiet neighborhood, hired 2 caregivers specialized in seniors with memory problems, and set up adapted rooms. "Now we just wait for the judge's decision," she said to Maya. But the children didn't stand still. Nathan and Victoria hired the best lawyers in New York City and began a campaign to prove that both Eleanor and Arthur were incapable of living alone. The legal battle intensified. Medical experts, social workers, and psychologists were called. Eleanor underwent a battery of tests to prove her mental soundness. Throughout this process, Maya was the target of constant pressure. She received anonymous calls, lawyers showed up at her home, they even offered her money to give up. But every time she thought of quitting, she remembered the meeting between Eleanor and Arthur, the way they looked at each other, and found the strength to continue. The hearing was scheduled for a Friday morning. Maya woke up nervous. She knew that day would define the fate of the couple she had learned to love, as if they were her own grandparents. At the courthouse, Eleanor arrived impeccable, wearing a navy blue suit and carrying a briefcase with all her documents organized. She greeted Mr. Henderson firmly. On the other side, Nathan and Victoria were with their lawyers. Maya observed them and saw they were elegant, well-dressed people, but with cold looks. Nathan was a man in his mid-40s, with graying hair, the appearance of an executive. Victoria, younger, blonde, wore an expensive suit and carried a designer bag. When the judge entered, everyone stood up. Mr. Sterling, representing Nathan, was the first to speak. "Your Honor, my client is concerned about his parents' well-being. Both have medical conditions that require constant professional care. Mrs. Eleanor's attempt to live independently could endanger both her health and her husband's." Mr. Vance, representing Victoria, agreed. Your Honor, my client, who is a doctor trained in Switzerland, believes the safest place for her parents is in a specialized institution where they can receive 24-hour care. It was then Mr. Henderson's turn. Your Honor, my client is not asking to live alone. She has hired specialized caregivers, adapted a home to the couple's specific needs, and has her own financial resources to ensure the best possible treatment. Mr. Henderson presented all of Arthur's documents, including the letter. As you can see, Your Honor, Mr. Arthur himself made his wish clear that he and his wife never be separated. The judge examined the documents carefully. Mr. Sterling, were your clients aware of the existence of these documents? Mr. Sterling exchanged looks with Nathan. No, Your Honor. And were they aware that Mrs. Eleanor possessed her own resources? Another awkward silence. No, Your Honor. The judge addressed Nathan and Victoria directly. Mr. Nathan, Ms. Victoria, step forward. The two stood up nervously. In the last 5 years, how many times did you visit your mother at the institute? Nathan began to stammer. Your Honor, it's just, we live far away. Our commitments. The question is simple. How many times? Victoria stepped in. Your Honor, I live in Switzerland. It wasn't possible. Not once, the judge completed. According to the Institute's records, Mrs. Eleanor did not receive a single family visit in 5 years. The silence in the courtroom was awkward. And you, the judge addressed the lawyers, did you tell Ms. Meyer that Mrs. Eleanor had died? Mr. Vance stood up. Your Honor, it was a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding? The judge raised his voice. Lying about a person's death is a misunderstanding. The judge addressed Eleanor. Mrs. Eleanor, are you aware of the risks of living with your husband outside of a medical institution? I am, Your Honor, and I am prepared to accept those risks. And why do you want to accept these risks? Eleanor stood up. Her voice came out firm and clear. Your Honor, my husband and I have been married for 52 years. We promised each other we would stay together in joy and in sorrow, in health and in sickness. My children separated me from him when we needed each other most. Continue. I know Arthur will not get better. I know I may also get worse, but we want to spend the time we have left together with dignity, in a home that is our own, with people who truly care about us. Eleanor pointed to Maya. This young woman, who owes us nothing, cared for my husband on the street for 3 months. Meanwhile, my own children, who owe us everything, abandoned us for 5 years. The judge looked at Maya. Miss Maya, step forward. Maya stood up with trembling legs. You cared for Mr. Arthur without knowing who he was? Yes, Your Honor. Why? Maya thought about the question. The answer came from the heart. Because he reminded me of my grandfather, and because I thought everyone deserves to be treated with kindness, no matter who they are. And now that you know who he is, what has changed? Nothing, Your Honor. He is still the same elderly man who needs care and kindness. The judge addressed the children again. Mr. Nathan, Ms. Victoria, what do you have to say about the testimony of Mrs. Eleanor and Miss Meyer? Nathan tried to speak, but his voice came out weak. Your Honor, we always wanted the best for our parents. The best for your parents, or the best for you? Victoria stepped forward, irritated. Your Honor, this is unfair. We managed the family business. We handled the estate. An estate you had no right to manage. The judge interrupted her. According to these documents, Mrs. Eleanor has her own resources and full capacity to administer them. The judge called a 30-minute recess. During the break, Maya observed the two families. On one side, Eleanor was speaking calmly with Mr. Henderson, confident. On the other, Nathan and Victoria were arguing nervously with their lawyers. When the session resumed, the judge had his decision. After reviewing all documents, hearing all parties, and considering the medical reports, my decision is as follows. The silence in the courtroom was total. Mrs. Eleanor Harrison is fit to make her own decisions and manage her own assets. The resources left by her husband are rightfully hers, without interference from the children. Eleanor squeezed Maya's hand. As for Mr. Arthur Harrison, considering his current mental state, he requires a legal guardian. But that guardian must be someone who prioritizes his well-being, not financial interests. The judge looked directly at Eleanor. I appoint Mrs. Eleanor Harrison as the legal guardian for her husband. She has the right to decide where and how he will be cared for, provided it is overseen by qualified professionals. Maya had to control herself not to shout for joy. Furthermore, the judge continued, I order that Mr. Nathan and Mrs. Victoria are to have no further access to the administration of their parents' assets without the express authorization of Mrs. Eleanor. Nathan stood up, outraged. Your Honor, this is absurd. They are our parents. Mr. Nathan, the judge stared at him coldly. Parents you abandoned for 5 years, parents about whom you lied, parents whose rights you systematically violated. The judge addressed Eleanor one last time. Mrs. Eleanor, are you certain you wish to take on this responsibility? Eleanor stood with dignity. Absolutely, Your Honor. It is the thing I want most in the world. Then it is decided. Custody of Mr. Arthur Harrison is granted to his wife, Mrs. Eleanor Harrison. He is to be transferred immediately from the Heights Medical Institute into his wife's care. Maya and Eleanor embraced, crying with joy. Across the courtroom, Nathan and Victoria left, visibly upset. Mr. Henderson approached. Congratulations, Mrs. Eleanor. You won. No, Mr. Henderson, she replied. Love won. That same afternoon, Maya accompanied Eleanor to the Heights Medical Institute. Arthur's transfer was tense. The staff, who had received orders from the children, were reluctant to release the patient. But Mr. Henderson arrived with the court order, and there was no room for argument. When they saw Arthur being brought out in a wheelchair, Maya was shocked. He was visibly thinner and more confused than on the day of the meeting. Arthur, Eleanor said, kneeling beside the wheelchair, I've come to take you home. Arthur looked at her without an initial reaction, but slowly his eyes focused on her face. Eleanor, he murmured, it's me, my love. We're going home. Home? Our home. A home just for us, where no one will ever separate us again. Arthur reached out, touching Eleanor's face. Are you real? I am real, my love, and so are you. And now we will be together forever. During the drive to the new house, Arthur was quiet, looking out the window. Eleanor held his hand, speaking softly about the home she had prepared for them. When they arrived, the house was ready. 2 caregivers were waiting, Mrs. Dorothy, a nurse specialized in geriatrics, and Mr. Silas, an experienced caregiver for Alzheimer's patients. Welcome home, said Mrs. Dorothy with a warm smile. Eleanor showed Arthur the house. The couple's room had 2 single beds placed close together, so they could sleep together, but with the necessary safety. There was a small but well-kept garden with a few rose bushes. When Arthur saw the roses, he stopped. Red roses, he said. That's right, my love, like at our old house. Arthur approached the flowers and smelled them. Eleanor planted red roses. I did, my love, and I will plant more. That night, for the first time in 5 years, Eleanor and Arthur slept in the same room. Eleanor later said she stayed awake most of the night, just listening to her husband's breathing and thanking heaven for that miracle. Maya visited the couple twice a week. Arthur was adapting well to the new routine. Although his memory remained fragmented, he was visibly calmer and happier. 1 month after the move, something unexpected happened. Maya arrived for a visit and found Eleanor agitated. Maya, you need to see this, Eleanor said, leading her to the garden. Arthur was kneeling beside a flower bed, planting rose seedlings with care and precision. He remembered, Eleanor whispered. He remembered how to plant the roses. Maya approached slowly. Good morning, Mr. Arthur? Arthur looked at her and smiled. Maya, the coffee girl. That's right, how are you? Well, I'm planting roses for Eleanor, red roses like she likes. Maya looked at Eleanor, who had tears in her eyes. Mr. Arthur, Maya said, do you know where you are? Arthur stopped working the soil and looked around. I'm home, with Eleanor, where I always wanted to be. In that moment, Maya understood that even with amnesia, true love had found a way. The months passed. Nathan and Victoria tried to appeal the court's decision, but without success. Gradually, they distanced themselves completely from their parents. Eleanor wasn't bothered. She had found a new family in the team of caregivers, and especially in Maya. "Maya," she said one day, "you saved our lives, literally." "Mrs. Eleanor, I just did what I thought was right." "You did much more than that. You gave us back to each other." Maya had found a job at a small company, but spent her free afternoons with the couple. She became a daughter to them, something she had never had with her own parents, who died when she was young. 1 year after the couple's reunion, Maya arrived for a visit and found a small party prepared. "What is this?" "It's our wedding anniversary," Eleanor explained. 53 years, and we want to celebrate with you." Arthur, who had improved significantly with loving care, was wearing a suit. "Maya," he said, "would you like to be our daughter in our hearts?" Maya couldn't answer from the emotion. "It's a formal request," Eleanor added. "We want to include you as a beneficiary in our will, not for the assets, but because you are the daughter we chose to have." Maya cried, as she hadn't cried in years. "I accept," she managed to say finally. "I accept being your daughter." The three of them hugged, forming the most unlikely and truest family Maya had ever known. Dear listener, if you are enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we are just starting out, now continuing. 2 years had passed since that memorable wedding anniversary. Maya's life had completely changed. She was no longer the unemployed young woman who brought coffee to an old man on the street. Now she worked at a human resources company and was studying psychology at night, inspired by her experience with Eleanor and Arthur. The couple's house had become a true home. The garden flourished under Arthur's care, who had regained his passion for gardening. His memories remained fragmented, but the daily routine with Eleanor gave him stability and joy. Eleanor, in turn, had become an advocate for the rights of the elderly. She began attending support groups and helping other families in similar situations. "Maya," she said one Sunday afternoon, "I received an interesting call today." "From whom?" "From a journalist. She wants to do a story about our story." Maya hesitated. "Mrs. Eleanor, are you sure? This could bring more trouble with Nathan and Victoria." "My dear, Nathan and Victoria have already done the worst they could do, and our story could help other elderly people who are going through similar situations." The story was published in a major newspaper under the headline, "The Love That Overcame Abandonment." The response was enormous. Maya began receiving calls from people in similar situations. Elderly people abandoned by their families, couples forcibly separated, children who discovered lies about their parents' condition. "Mrs. Eleanor," she said, "I think we need to do something with all these requests for help." "What do you have in mind?" "I don't know yet, but I feel we have a responsibility to these people." It was Eleanor who had the idea. "Maya, what if we created a support group? People who have been through situations similar to ours could help each other." The idea quickly became reality. With the help of Mr. Henderson and some of Eleanor's contacts, they created the Elders Restoration Network. The first meeting took place in the living room of Eleanor and Arthur's home. 8 people came, 3 elderly people who had been abandoned by their children, 2 children who discovered their parents were being mistreated in clinics, and 3 caregivers who had witnessed situations of abandonment. Arthur participated in the meeting. Although his speech was limited, his presence was comforting to the other elderly people. "This is my Arthur," Eleanor introduced him. "He was abandoned by his children and spent months sleeping on the street. Today he is here at home with me, proving that there is always hope." One of the participants, Mr. Silas, began to cry. "My daughter put me in a care home and said I had lost the house. I found out later that she sold everything and kept the money." "How long ago?" asked Eleanor. 3 years. I didn't even know I had rights." Maya leaned forward. "Mr. Silas, you do have rights, and we are going to help you get them back." The group grew quickly. In 6 months, there were more than 50 participants. Eleanor used some of her resources to rent a larger space, and Maya secured the collaboration of lawyers specializing in elder law. The network began to gain official recognition. They secured partnerships with the Public Prosecutor's Office, consumer protection agencies, and even with some clinics that wanted to improve their practices. Maya was invited to give lectures on elder abandonment. Her story with Arthur became a symbol that small actions can change lives. During one of these lectures, something unexpected happened. A woman in the audience stood up. "My name is Sarah," she said. Maya immediately recognized the nurse who had helped Eleanor. "Sarah!" Maya exclaimed, surprised. "Maya, I wanted to thank you publicly. After your story with Mrs. Eleanor, I changed my way of working. Now I advocate for all elderly patients who are abandoned by their families." The audience applauded. After the lecture, Sarah approached Maya. "Maya, can I tell you something? Your story inspired a change at the clinic where I work. Now we have a specific protocol to identify and protect abandoned elderly people." "Really?" "Really. And it's not just at our clinic. Several institutions in New York City have adopted similar measures." Maya felt moved. The story that had begun with a simple coffee was creating waves of change far beyond what she had imagined. That night she told Eleanor about the meeting with Sarah. "Mrs. Eleanor, sometimes I can't believe how much has changed since that first day I brought coffee to Mr. Arthur." Eleanor smiled. "Maya, do you know what the moment was that changed everything?" "Which one?" "When you decided that that old man on the street deserved a hot coffee every morning. Everything that happened afterward was a consequence of that first act of love." Maya looked at Arthur, who was in the garden watering his roses, and at Eleanor, who was knitting in the armchair beside her. "Mrs. Eleanor, may I ask a personal question?" "Of course, my dear." "Don't you feel anger toward your children?" Eleanor stopped knitting and thought for a moment. "You know, Maya, I felt a lot of anger for a long time. Anger and hurt. But I realized those feelings were only harming me. And now? Now I feel sorry for them. They lost the chance to know the true love that Arthur and I have. They lost the chance to grow old with dignity beside their parents. And they lost the chance to have a daughter like you." Maya was moved. "Did they ever try to contact you again?" "Nathan sent a lawyer once, offering money in exchange for a share of the inheritance. Victoria sent a Christmas card from abroad, probably written by her secretary." "And did you respond?" "I didn't respond to Nathan or to Victoria, but I did respond to my grandchildren." Maya was surprised. "You have grandchildren?" "I have 3 grandchildren. Nathan's children. They sought me out last year, saying they didn't know what their father had done to us." "How did they find out?" "Through the newspaper article. They were shocked to learn their grandparents were alive and that their father had lied about our death." "And how was the meeting?" Eleanor smiled for the first time when speaking of her children. "It was beautiful, Maya. They apologized on their father's behalf. They said if they had known the truth, they would have sought us out much sooner." "Do they visit you?" "Yes, they do. Every month. And they know they are always welcome." "And Nathan? Does he know about his children's visits?" "He does. And according to the boys, he didn't like it at all. He even threatened to disinherit his own children." "What a terrible man." "Yes, Maya, but the grandchildren are different. They learned from their father's mistakes." Maya was happy to know that Eleanor had recovered at least part of her family. A few months later, something happened that took everyone by surprise. Maya was at the couple's house on a Thursday afternoon when the doorbell rang. Mrs. Dorothy went to answer it and returned with a strange expression. "Mrs. Eleanor, there's a young lady at the door who says she's your granddaughter, but it's not any of the ones we know." Eleanor was confused. "What do you mean?" Maya offered to go see who it was. At the door, she found a young woman of about 25, blonde, well-dressed, but with eyes red from crying. "Are you Maya?" she asked. "Yes, I am. And you are?" "My name is Audrey. I'm Victoria's daughter." Maya was surprised. She didn't know Victoria had children. "Please come in." Audrey entered nervously, looking around. "Where are my grandparents?" "Your grandmother is in the living room. Your grandfather is in the garden. But may I ask why you've come?" Audrey began to cry. "Maya, I just discovered something terrible about my mother." "What was it?" "My mother told me my grandparents had died when I was a child. I grew up believing that. I only discovered the truth last week when a friend showed me the newspaper article." Maya felt a tightness in her chest, another victim of Victoria's lies. Audrey, how long has it been since you saw your grandparents? 15 years. I was 10 when my mother said they had died in an accident. My God. Maya, I came to apologize. On behalf of my mother, my uncle, the whole family. What they did is unforgivable. Maya called Eleanor, who was shocked to see her granddaughter. Audrey, Eleanor murmured. My little granddaughter, Audrey? Audrey ran into her grandmother's arms. Grandma Eleanor, I thought you were dead. The two cried, embracing for several minutes. My dear granddaughter, Eleanor was saying, how you've grown, how beautiful you are. Grandma, forgive me for not looking for you sooner. I swear I didn't know the truth. You don't need to apologize, my love. You weren't at fault for anything. Maya went to get Arthur from the garden. Mr. Arthur, there's a surprise for you inside. When Arthur saw Audrey, he stood still for a moment, studying her face. Audrey, he finally said. Victoria's little girl. Audrey ran to hug her grandfather. Grandpa Arthur, you remember me? Of course I do. You used to like watering the plants with me. I did. You taught me the names of all the flowers. That day, Audrey shared that she had graduated in psychology and worked with at-risk children. She had inherited her grandparents' kindness, not her mother's coldness. Grandma Eleanor, she said, I want to get involved with the Restoration Network. I want to help other elders who have gone through what you went through. My granddaughter, it would be wonderful to have you with us. Audrey became an active collaborator with the network. Her psychology training was very useful in helping both abandoned elders and families in conflict. 3 months after Audrey's arrival, the network received an unexpected proposal. A television channel wanted to make a documentary about elder abandonment, using Eleanor and Arthur's story as the central thread. What do you think? Asked Maya. I think we should accept, said Eleanor. Our story could touch other people and prevent more families from going through what we did. The documentary was filmed over a month. The crew followed the couple's daily life, interviewed Maya, filmed network meetings, and spoke with experts about elder abandonment in Brazil. The most emotional part was when they filmed Eleanor and Arthur in the garden, tending to the roses together. These roses, Arthur said to the camera, are like our love. Even when they seem dead in winter, they bloom again in spring. The documentary aired on a Tuesday night and had a large audience. The impact was even greater than that of the newspaper article. The Restoration Network began receiving calls from all over the country. People wanted to create similar chapters in their cities. Maya found herself at the center of a national movement. She was invited to give lectures, appear on television programs, and write articles on the subject. Mrs. Eleanor, she said one day, this is getting too big for me. I'm afraid I can't handle it. Maya, you don't have to handle it alone. Look how many people have joined the cause. Audrey, Sarah, Mr. Henderson, Nathan's grandchildren, volunteers from all over the country. That's true, but sometimes I feel I've lost control of my own life. Eleanor laughed. My dear, since the day you decided to take coffee to a strange old man, your life has been anything but predictable. It was true, Maya had become a national figure in the defense of elders' rights. She published a book recounting her experience, which became a bestseller. All the royalties were donated in full to the Restoration Network. 5 years after the first meeting on the sidewalk, the Elders Restoration Network had chapters in 12 Brazilian states and had helped over 1,000 families reunite. Maya, now a psychology graduate, coordinated a team of 50 volunteers. She had specialized in family therapy and conflict mediation. Eleanor, at 82, remained active in coordinating the network. Her experience and wisdom were fundamental in guiding families in crisis. Arthur, though with increasing limitations due to age, participated in activities whenever possible. His serene presence and gentle smile brought peace to the most tense environments. One March morning, Maya arrived for her daily visit and found Eleanor more thoughtful than usual. Mrs. Eleanor, are you all right? I'm fine, yes. I was just thinking about how much has happened in these 5 years. And what conclusion have you reached, ma'am? I conclude that God has plans we don't understand at the time. When Arthur and I were separated, I thought my life was over. I never imagined that pain would lead us to help so many other people. Do you regret anything, ma'am? Eleanor looked out at the garden, where Arthur was feeding the birds visiting the rose bushes. I don't regret anything, Maya, not even the suffering, because it was the suffering that taught us to value every moment together, and it was the suffering that gave us the compassion to help others. That afternoon, something happened that no one expected. The doorbell rang and Mrs. Dorothy announced, "Mrs. Eleanor, there's a man at the door asking to speak with you. He says he's your son." Eleanor paled. Maya stood up immediately. "Which son?" "The youngest, Nathan," he said. Maya and Eleanor exchanged a look. "Do you want me to send him away?" Eleanor took a deep breath. "No, let him in. I want to hear what he has to say." Nathan entered the room, visibly uncomfortable. He looked older, his hair grayer, his appearance weary. "Mother," he said, stopping at the door. "Nathan, what do you want here?" "I came to ask to talk, alone, if possible." Maya stood to leave, but Eleanor held her back. "Maya stays. She is as much my daughter as you are. More, in fact." Nathan was visibly uncomfortable with Maya's presence. "Mother, I came here because I need to apologize." 5 years later, you come to apologize? I know it's late. I know I have no right to ask for forgiveness, but my children forced me to come here." Eleanor leaned forward. "Your children forced you? They discovered the whole truth, about what I did, about the lies I told. They are ashamed of me. And aren't you ashamed of yourself?" Nathan lowered his head. "I am, very much." "Nathan, you abandoned your father on the street, lied about your mother's death, stole our dignity, our peace, our last years together. And now you come here to apologize because your children forced you?" "Mother, I was desperate. The company was going through difficulties. I had huge debts. And you thought solving your problems at our expense was justifiable." Nathan began to cry. "It wasn't justifiable. Nothing I did was justifiable." Eleanor watched her son in silence for a long moment. "Nathan, do you have any idea what your father went through living on the street? What I went through believing he was dead?" "I do, Mother. That's why I came here." "No, Nathan, you have no idea, because if you did, you wouldn't have waited 5 years to come here." Maya watched the scene in silence. It was painful to see so much suffering on both sides. "Mother," Nathan continued, "I also came here because I want to help with the Elders Restoration Network." Eleanor was surprised. "What do you mean?" "My children told me about the work you do. I want to contribute financially. I want to do something to repair the harm I caused." "Nathan, money doesn't repair what you did." "I know, Mother, but it's the only way I know how to try to help." Eleanor looked at Maya, as if asking for advice. "Mrs. Eleanor," Maya said softly, "the decision is yours. But perhaps it's an opportunity for Nathan to truly understand what was done to you." Eleanor thought for a moment. "Nathan, if you truly want to help, I accept your financial contribution, but on one condition." "What?" "You will work as a volunteer at the network. You will personally assist families who have gone through situations similar to ours. You will look other abandoned elderly in the eye and explain to them how it's possible for a child to do this to their parents." Nathan swallowed hard. "Mother, I don't know if I can do that." "Then you haven't changed at all, Nathan. You still want to solve everything with money, without getting emotionally involved." Nathan remained silent for a long time. "All right, Mother. I accept the condition. And there's one more thing. You will apologize to your father, in person, and you will explain to him why you did what you did." "Mother, Father won't understand." "Yes, he will. Arthur understands much more than you think." Eleanor got up and went to call Arthur from the garden. He came in with dirt on his hands, smiling. When he saw Nathan, the smile vanished. "Nathan," he said simply. "Father, Jesus." "Arthur," Eleanor said, "Nathan came here to apologize for what he did to us, sir." Arthur looked at his son for a long moment. "Nathan pushed Arthur on the stairs," he said suddenly. Everyone was shocked. Nathan paled. "Father, you remember?" Nathan was angry. "Nathan pushed, Arthur fell. Arthur hit his head. Nathan fell to his knees. "Father, forgive me. I didn't mean to hurt you. I was desperate, angry." Nathan left Arthur alone on the street, Arthur continued. Arthur was cold. Arthur was hungry. "Father, I'm so sorry, so very sorry." Arthur approached his son and placed his hand on his head. Arthur forgives Nathan, but Nathan needs to be a good man now. The scene was heartbreaking. Nathan cried like a child, while Arthur, with his fragmented mind, demonstrated a wisdom and generosity that was surprising. "Will Nathan help other old people?" Arthur asked. "I will, Father. I promise I will." "Then it's okay." Arthur forgives. Eleanor was also crying. After 5 years of hurt, seeing her husband's forgiveness touched her deeply. Nathan stood up and hugged his father. It was a desperate hug, full of guilt and remorse. "Father, I promise I will spend the rest of my life trying to make up for what I did." "Will Nathan stay for dinner?" Arthur asked simply. Eleanor looked at Maya, who nodded discreetly. "Yes, Nathan, stay for dinner with us." That night was surreal. Nathan dined with his parents for the first time in 5 years. He talked with Maya about the Elders Restoration Network, listened to Arthur's stories about the garden, saw how his parents had rebuilt their lives. When he left, he hugged Maya. "Thank you," he said. "Thank you for taking care of my parents when I didn't." "Nathan," Maya replied, "now you have the chance to be the son they deserve. Don't waste this chance." "I won't waste it." Nathan kept his promise. He began volunteering at the Elders Restoration Network 3 times a week. Initially, it was hard for him to hear the stories of abandonment. Several times he left the meetings crying. But gradually, he developed a genuine sensitivity to the problem. He became especially effective at talking to children who had abandoned their parents because he understood the justifications they created. "Maya," he said one day after a particularly difficult meeting, "how did you manage to forgive my family?" "Nathan, I didn't forgive your family. I forgave you and Victoria. Family is who cares, who loves, who is present. Your family today is different from 5 years ago." "How so?" "Today your family includes your children, who chose to do the right thing. It includes your parents, who chose to forgive. And if you keep working to make up for your mistakes, it can include other people you will meet on this path." Nathan became one of the most dedicated volunteers in the network. His personal transformation inspired other remorseful children to seek help. Victoria, on the other hand, never returned. According to Audrey, she was furious about her brother's betrayal and had cut ties with the entire family. "Aunt Victoria said you are manipulators," Audrey told Eleanor, "that you are using emotional blackmail to get money. And you, Audrey, what do you think? Grandma, I see you every day. I see the love you have for each other, the work you do to help other people. My mother is the one lost in her own bitterness." Time passed. The Elders Restoration Network expanded to 15 states. Maya married a psychologist she met at a conference on aging. They had a daughter, whom Eleanor and Arthur adopted as a heart granddaughter. On the couple's 10th reunion anniversary, the network organized a big celebration. Over 300 people attended, including elders who had been helped, reconciled families, professionals in the field. Eleanor, now 87, gave a moving speech. "When Arthur and I were separated 10 years ago, I thought my life was over. I never imagined so much love could be born from that pain. Today I look at this crowd and see a giant family, united not by blood, but by compassion." Arthur, seated in the front row, listened attentively. Although his ability to speak had diminished, his eyes shone with pride for his wife. "Maya," Eleanor continued, "a young stranger who decided that an abandoned old man deserved a warm cup of coffee every morning. That simple gesture changed our lives and the lives of thousands of people." The audience gave a standing ovation. Maya cried on stage, holding her small daughter in her arms. "Nathan," Eleanor went on, "my son who made terrible mistakes but had the courage to acknowledge them and work to make amends. Today, he is one of our most dedicated volunteers." Nathan, in the audience, discreetly wiped his eyes. "Audrey, my dear granddaughter, who brought youth and energy to our cause. And Arthur," Eleanor looked at her husband, "my lifelong companion, who taught me that true love overcomes any obstacle." Arthur rose from his chair with help and walked to the stage. With slow movements, he hugged Eleanor. "I love Eleanor," he said into the microphone. "Eleanor loves Arthur. Strong love." The audience erupted in applause and tears. That night, during the celebration dinner, Maya observed the table where she was seated. Eleanor and Arthur holding hands, Nathan chatting animatedly with other volunteers, Audrey playing with her daughter, Sarah, now a regional coordinator for the network, Mr. Henderson, who had become the permanent legal counsel. Mrs. Dorothy, now 86 but still sharp, approached Maya. "My dear, did you ever imagine that day in the abandoned house would lead to all this?" Maya laughed. "Never, Mrs. Dorothy, I never imagined." "That's right. You never know where an act of kindness can lead." At the end of the night, Maya was helping Eleanor get ready for bed when she said, "Maya, can I ask you something?" "Of course, Mrs. Eleanor." "When Arthur and I are no longer here, promise me you'll keep looking after the network." "Mrs. Eleanor, don't talk like that. Maya, I am 87. Arthur is 89. It's natural for us to think about the future." Maya held Eleanor's hand. "I promise. I promise I will continue the work you started." "And promise you'll tell our story to your daughter, so she knows that small acts of love can change the world." "I promise that too." Eleanor smiled. "Then I can sleep in peace, knowing our love will continue to live on through the work we do." 2 years later, Arthur began to show signs that his condition was deteriorating. He started having trouble recognizing people, except for Eleanor. "Maya," Eleanor said one afternoon, "the doctor said Arthur may not have much time. How are you dealing with this?" "With serenity, my dear. We had 12 years together after being reunited, 12 years we didn't expect to have. Every day was a gift." Maya admired Eleanor's strength. Even facing the prospect of losing Arthur for good, she maintained her dignity and optimism. "Mrs. Eleanor, what can I do to help?" "Just keep being our daughter. That's all we need." Arthur spent his last months surrounded by love. Eleanor never left his side. Maya visited every day. Nathan brought the children to visit their grandfather. Audrey organized a schedule so there was always a family member nearby. On a December morning, Arthur fell asleep peacefully, holding Eleanor's hand. His last word was, "Eleanor." Arthur's wake was a celebration of the life he had lived. Hundreds of people attended. Elders who had been helped by the network, reconciled families, volunteers, professionals in the field. Eleanor remained strong throughout the funeral. At the church, she insisted on speaking. Arthur was a good man who went through very difficult times, but the last 12 years of his life were pure happiness. He died knowing he was loved. That's all anyone can wish for. After the burial, Eleanor approached Maya. "Maya, thank you for giving me back my husband. Thanks to you, he didn't die abandoned on the street. He died at home in our bedroom holding my hand. Mrs. Eleanor, and now I need you more than ever, because the network's work must continue." Eleanor lived 3 more years after Arthur's passing. She remained active in the network until the last months of her life. At 92, she fell asleep one night peacefully, in the same bed where Arthur had passed. Eleanor's funeral gathered even more people than Arthur's. The couple's story had become a legend of love and resilience. Maya, now the national president of the Elders Restoration Network, gave the main speech. "Eleanor and Arthur taught me that true love doesn't end with age, doesn't end with illness, doesn't even end with death. The love they had for each other lives on in every elder we help, in every family we reconcile, in every act of kindness we practice." She looked at the packed audience. "When I met Arthur, he was just an abandoned old man on a sidewalk. When I met Eleanor, she was just a forgotten lady in a clinic. Together, they became symbols that it's never too late to start over, never too late to forgive, never too late to love." Maya finished the speech with tears in her eyes. "Eleanor and Arthur, thank you for choosing me as your daughter. I promise to honor your memory by continuing the work we started together." 5 years after Eleanor's passing, the Elders Restoration Network was present in every Brazilian state and had inspired similar organizations in Latin America. Maya, now 42, had become an international reference in the defense of elders' rights. She wrote 3 books on the subject: participated in world conferences, and advised on public policy. But whenever someone asked about her motivation, she told the same story. It all started with a cup of coffee for an old man sleeping on the sidewalk. Nathan continued working as a volunteer for the network. He had become an expert in mediating family conflicts and was highly respected by his colleagues. Audrey took over the coordination of the network in New York City and developed innovative programs for the prevention of abandonment. Maya's daughter, now 10 years old, grew up hearing the stories of the grandparents of the heart, Eleanor and Arthur. She often said that when she grew up, she wanted to help old people like her mother did. One March morning, Maya was in her office at the national headquarters of the network when she received an unexpected call. "Maya, it's Victoria." Maya was shocked. It was the first time she had spoken to Victoria in 15 years. "Victoria, where are you?" "I'm at Guarulhos Airport. I just arrived from Switzerland. I need to talk to you." "About what?" "About my parents, about everything that happened." Maya hesitated. She had forgiven Nathan because he had genuinely repented and worked to make amends for his mistakes. But Victoria had never shown signs of regret. "Victoria, a long time has passed. Please, Maya, I know I don't deserve it, but I really need to talk to you." Maya agreed to meet her at a cafe downtown. When she arrived, she got a shock. Victoria was visibly worn down, older, with a tired appearance. "Maya, thank you for agreeing to see me." "What do you want, Victoria?" "I want to apologize for everything." Maya was surprised. "After 15 years? I know it's too late, but I need to try." Victoria began to cry. "Maya, my parents died before I asked for forgiveness. I lost the chance to reconcile with them." "And why do you want to apologize now?" "Because I'm going through the same situation they went through." Maya leaned forward, interested. "How so?" "My daughter Audrey has cut ties with me. My ex-husband left me. I'm alone, sick, with no one to take care of me." "And you came to New York City for what?" "To try to reconcile with Audrey, and to ask for you all to forgive me." Maya observed Victoria for a moment. There was something genuine in her suffering. "Victoria, your parents forgave you while they were still alive. Several times they said if you came back, you'd be welcome." "I know. Audrey told me. That's why my regret is even greater." "And what do you expect from me now?" Victoria took a deep breath. "Hope. Hope that it's not too late to start over." Maya thought of Eleanor and Arthur. She remembered how they had forgiven Nathan. She remembered how many families the network had reunited over the years. "Victoria, forgiving you isn't the problem. The problem is trusting that your change is genuine. I understand your distrust, but I'm willing to prove I've changed." "How?" "I want to work for the network. I want to dedicate the time I have left in my life to helping other abandoned elders." Maya was surprised by the proposal. "Victoria, you have medical training. You could be very useful in the clinical side of the work." "That's exactly what I'm proposing." Maya decided to give Victoria a chance. "All right, I'll allow you to work as a volunteer, but it will be a probationary period. And any sign that you haven't truly changed, you're out." "I accept all the conditions." Victoria began working at the network 3 months later. Initially, many volunteers received her with distrust, but gradually, her dedication to the elderly patients earned her colleagues' respect. A year later, Maya found Victoria crying in the headquarters bathroom. "Victoria, what happened?" "I just finished caring for an elderly man who was abandoned by his children the same way I abandoned my parents. Seeing his suffering made me understand the pain I caused." "And how do you feel?" "I feel an enormous pain, but I also feel that I'm finally doing something useful with my life." Victoria reconciled with Audrey, who was surprised by her mother's change. Gradually, they rebuilt their relationship. "Aunt Victoria really has changed," Audrey commented to Maya. "She's not the cold woman I knew anymore." "People can change, Audrey. Sometimes it takes time, but they can change." Victoria worked at the network for 5 years, until health problems forced her to slow down. She had become one of the most beloved volunteers, especially by the elders, who identified with her story of regret and new beginnings. When Victoria died at 74, Her funeral was a surprise. Hundreds of people attended, including many elders she had helped. Maya gave the farewell speech. Victoria made serious mistakes in the past, but she had the courage to acknowledge them and work to make amends. Her last years were of total dedication to others. That is how she should be remembered. 20 years had passed since that morning when Maya decided to bring coffee to an abandoned old man on the sidewalk. The Elders Restoration Network had become one of the largest organizations advocating for the rights of the elderly in Latin America. Maya, now 52 years old, continued to lead the organization. Her daughter, now 20, was studying gerontology and intended to follow in her mother's footsteps. "Mom," she said one day, "have you ever gotten tired of this work?" "Never," Maya replied. "Every time I see an elderly person reunited with their family, I remember the day Eleanor and Arthur found each other again. The happiness on their faces is worth any sacrifice." "Do you think they would know the size of the impact their story caused?" Maya looked at the photo of Eleanor and Arthur she kept on her desk. "I think they do know, and I think they are proud of what we built together." On a Friday morning, Maya was in her office when she received a call that would once again change her perspective. "Maya, my name is Grant. I'm Arthur's grandson." Maya was surprised. She knew Nathan's grandchildren, but had never heard of other grandchildren. "Arthur's grandson? How so?" "I'm Victoria's son, Audrey's brother." But Audrey never mentioned a brother. We hadn't spoken in many years, but after our mother died, Audrey and I reconnected. "And why are you calling?" "Because I want to make a proposal to the network." Grant explained that he was a successful businessman in Switzerland and wanted to create an international foundation in honor of his grandparents. "I want my grandparents' story to inspire similar projects in other countries, especially in countries where elder abandonment is a serious problem." The proposal was ambitious. Grant was willing to invest millions of dollars to expand the network's model to other countries. "Maya, would you agree to coordinate this international project?" Maya was moved. It was as if Eleanor and Arthur were continuing to expand their positive influence in the world. "Grant, I accept, but on one condition." "What is it?" "The foundation must be called the Eleanor and Arthur Harrison Foundation. I want their names to be known worldwide as symbols of love that overcomes any obstacle." Perfect. That was exactly what I had in mind. The Eleanor and Arthur Harrison Foundation was officially launched 2 years later in a ceremony in New York City that brought together representatives from 15 countries. Maya gave the opening speech. Eleanor and Arthur were ordinary people who faced an extraordinary situation. They were separated by greed, reunited by love, and dedicated their final years to helping others. Today, their story goes global, inspiring action on every continent. During the ceremony, a documentary about the couple's life was shown, produced by Grant in partnership with an American film company. The film ended with real footage of Eleanor and Arthur in their home garden, tending to the roses together. The documentary's final line was a quote from Eleanor. "True love isn't just being together when everything is fine. It's choosing to stay together even when everything falls apart. It's searching for each other even when everyone else gives up. It's believing there is always hope, even in the darkest moments." The audience remained silent for several seconds before erupting in applause. That night, during the gala dinner, Maya was honored as the Global Ambassador for Elder Rights. In her acceptance speech, she said, 22 years ago, I was an unemployed young woman who decided to bring coffee to an abandoned old man. I never imagined that simple act would change my life and the lives of thousands of people around the world." She looked at the international audience. "Eleanor and Arthur taught me that small acts of love can create giant waves of transformation, that it's never too late to start over, that forgiveness is possible even in the most difficult situations. And that true love is the most powerful force in the world." Maya finished her speech with tears in her eyes. "Thank you, Eleanor and Arthur, for choosing me to be part of your story. I promise I will continue to honor your memory until the last day of my life." The Eleanor and Arthur Harrison Foundation grew rapidly. In 5 years, it had projects in 23 countries and had helped more than 10,000 families reconcile. Maya became a respected international figure. She received numerous awards, including a decoration from the United Nations for Human Rights. But whenever asked about her motivation, she gave the same answer. It all started with love. The love Eleanor and Arthur had for each other, the love they had for me, and the love we learned to have for others. At 60, Maya decided to retire from the presidency of the foundation, but remained as a special advisor. At her farewell ceremony, she said, "When I met Eleanor and Arthur, I was a lost young woman, with no direction in life. They gave me purpose, they gave me a family, they gave me a mission. Today, I look back and see a life well lived, a life dedicated to defending the most vulnerable, reuniting families, spreading love around the world." Eleanor always said that true love finds a way, and that's exactly what happened. Their love found a way to touch hearts all around the world. Maya retired to a house in the countryside near New York City, close to the cemetery where Eleanor and Arthur were buried. Every day she visited the couple's grave, bringing fresh, red roses. "Good morning, Eleanor. Good morning, Arthur," she said every morning. "I've come to share the news." And then she would report on the foundation's progress, the families that had been reunited, the projects being developed around the world. One day, her daughter accompanied her on one of these visits. "Mom, do you think they can hear you?" Maya smiled. "My dear, I am absolutely certain they can hear. And more than that, I am certain they are proud of what we built together." At 75, Maya decided to write her memoirs. The book, A Cup of Coffee and a Lesson in Love, became a worldwide bestseller and was translated into 15 languages. In the book's introduction, she wrote, "This is the story of how a simple act of kindness can change the world. It is the story of Eleanor and Arthur Harrison, a couple who proved that true love overcomes any obstacle. And it is my story, too, of how two special people taught me that small gestures can have extraordinary consequences." The book ends with a reflection on the couple's legacy. Eleanor and Arthur were not saints. They were ordinary people who faced extraordinary circumstances. But the way they dealt with suffering, the forgiveness they showed, and the love they maintained for each other until the end, transformed them into symbols of hope for millions of people. Their story teaches us that it is never too late to start over, never too late to forgive, and never too late to love. It teaches us that the greatest transformations begin with the smallest gestures, and it teaches us that true love is eternal. Today, when I see the elderly being cared for with tenderness around the world, when I see families reconciling, when I see young people dedicating their lives to helping the most vulnerable, I know that Eleanor and Arthur are still alive. Alive in the work we do, in the love we spread, in the hope we offer. They taught me that a cup of coffee can be much more than a drink. It can be a gesture of love. It can be a symbol of care. It can be the beginning of a story that changes the world. And that is exactly what happened. End of story. Now tell us what you thought of the story and where you are watching from. If you have something to share with us, leave it in the comments with sincere words. Do you believe Maya made the right decisions throughout the story? We would love to read your opinion. Thank you so much for your company. Don't forget to leave your like and, most importantly, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss other moving stories.